Hi, welcome to part 2 of my Wolcen Occult Mage video showcase. This video is going to be going over all the gear and the gems you are looking for. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to be going over the Implicits, which is the type of gear that you want for every slot. Then I'm going to be going over the gems, and finally I'm going to be going over the specific prefixes and suffixes you're looking for in all of your gear. So to start off with, you want a heavy helm and a heavy chest. This is because of the siege breaker nodes that triple the flat resists on your chest and double the flat resists on your helm. This is going to give you a tremendous amount of resistances because it's the flat ones, and flat numbers in Wolcen are the numbers that get multiplied, so you always want more flat. For the shoulders and the gloves, you're going to want bruisers. This is currently heavy just because it had good rolls, but you're going to want bruiser for all of this. It's going to give you ferocity implicit, and it's going to give you a chunk of health and some resistances. Ferocity, you're going to want a decent amount, so getting it on the implicit is nice because you're going to want some so that you can have your spell click chance up high. And health, it's just nice to have. And the little bit of resistances isn't much, but everything adds up. For the boots, you're also going to want bruiser. They have different rolls than the gloves and the shoulders. Similar rolls are glove, shoulders, helm, chest, pants, and the boots have their own roll table. So these three, these four have the same roll table. Boots have a different roll table, but you're still going to want bruiser here for similar reasons. You're going to want ferocity and health and resist. It's just good to have. For pants, I'm currently running heavy. Heavy's fine. The implicit for heavy, it's the same on these. It doesn't matter too much. This one's you're basically obligated to go heavy, just because they have way more resistances. But for this one, the heavy implicit is added block chance and allow any weapon to block. You don't necessarily need this, but you can take. What do I have here? It's over here. Rogue Pants. Rogue Pants, I believe, are the best in slot here. You can roll up to a 10% movement speed, which is going to be better than the block chance, which doesn't matter too much, and the health regen, which is just garbage on the bruiser legs. And the sorcerer is just, we're not a force shield build, so I don't want sorcerer gear. So I'm currently trying to see if I can build these up into something when I get some more gems to craft them with. But the reason why you'd want Force Shield on top of having the better implicit is so that when you use Infinity Blades, you can, and you have enough shadow damage to take this off, you can take the two Force Shield damage stuff. And that should add up to more damage, but I currently don't have any Force Shield on my gear. But again, Heavy's fine if you get really good rolls on it like I did for this one. This is a maxed out occult damage roll and some other good rolls. For jewelry, you're going to want steel rings, 100% steel rings. The crit damage implicit is too good to give up. 30% is like a ton. It's like 3 nodes basically on the tree. The highest you can roll on crit damage suffix on the gems is going to be 20%. I mean, on the jewelry is going to be 20%. So definitely try and make sure you're at or around 30. Like even this, I'm trying to craft another one where it has 30 already, because just 3% crit damage is still a lot. So that's going to be the biggest implicit to focus on. With these ones, it doesn't really matter if you have 17 or 20 ferocity. That's the only difference on the implicits. Like 20 is obviously better than 17, but it's not the end of the world. You'll be fine. And the block chance, it really doesn't matter. 3 to 5. You have so much anyways from Belligerent Banner. It's not that big of a deal. The movement speed, just because I've been trying to craft, I wanted to get up to 10. I'd say probably shoot for 10, because every bit of movement speed you can get just like is better quality of life, but not the end of the world too if that one's not too high. But definitely want steel rings for these with as high as you can get them. For amulet, you don't want this one. I just have good rolls on this. You want a Omni Star, and the max roll on this one is 20 to all attributes. So if you have a like 25 to ferocity or 25 to toughness, that's fine. But ideally you want this because it's 20 to both toughness and ferocity on top of wisdom and agility. So this implicit is just going to be by far and away way better than anything else. I'm also crafting this one because it has almost a perfect occult damage roll and a pretty high health roll. But again, I'm kind of gem starved right now. Belts, there's a couple options for belts. You don't want this one. The health implicit's bad. It just got, again, such crazy rolls along with like this and this and this. I just had to use this one. But belt implicits doesn't matter too much, so don't like feel bad if you have to use this because it's like fine. Like 82 to 100 health sucks, but it's whatever. The belt implicits aren't that powerful. This is just like a flat spell damage thing, so this is like 2 damage nodes on the tree, but it's flat percentage, so it's not going to give you that much damage, but it is significant. It's like getting another occult damage roll, basically, for free, so it's pretty good. The crit chance score is another one you can look for. Just gives you more crit chance. These are the two I'd say you want to focus on. Ideally, this one. You can also get a force shield belt. Let me see if he has one here. Yeah, you can get like a steel belt for force shield. And that's only if you don't have force shield on your gear, so you can use the infinity blades. And then staff. I like using a staff for a bunch of reasons over a catalyst and one-hander. So let me go over why those are. So first off, with a staff, you're only rolling offensive slots. So it's way easier to roll 3 offensive 2s, which are the hardest thing you want to roll, especially because you have to roll 3 of them in a row, and you have to roll the fact that it has 3 sockets in the first place. So there's a lot of rolling and a lot of gold, so way easier to do it on a staff. The second one is your auto attacks will regenerate willpower, which you're not going to need to do much, but there is currently a bug where transfer time is like, if you use too much at once, it'll reduce your maximum until you're at 0 on each. I've only ever gone down to like 700 or so, but auto attacks with a staff will like fix that bug, sort of. But in the future, it's just like if you run out of flash charges and somehow run out of willpower against a boss, you can just auto attack them. It'll bring them back, and they're ranged AoE auto attacks, so they're very good auto attacks. Second is they have bonus 2 transfer time decrease, so you're going to be having it's going to take it longer for your stuff to go to rage, which is good because we don't use rage. On Catalyst, you have a negative modifier to this, anywhere from like 50 to 100, unless you're running, I believe, this one here, which doesn't have that. But most people have been running transfer time on their jewelry and gems, but if you're using a staff, you don't have to do that. So that's a big benefit from that. And finally, staff can roll higher flat damage, higher spell damage, same crit damage, but most of it is just higher rolls than a catalyst. So your maximum peak on a staff is going to be way higher than catalyst. Even though with catalyst you can technically get more flat gems in, it's just so much gold to do that, and you're more likely to roll higher staff than you are like the catalyst and combo that gets you where a staff gets you. So that's it for types of gear. So for gems, jewelry, like I said, you don't have to run the transfer time if you're using a staff. So what we do here is we put Alexandrites in support 2s, and that will give you, at the max rank, these are rank 12 gems, give you 35% increased spell critical chance score, which is one of the many reasons why our spell crit is 57% and our attack crit is 33. So this is another one of the reasons why you get to run full toughness, because you're going to have plenty of crit chance even if you put everything into toughness. In the staff, you definitely want support 2s and everything if you can. You're going to want shadow damage all across the board, all the way down shadow damage. These are, again, tier 12 sapphires. If you do not have a source of sacred damage to spells, like I have sacred damage with the staff, if you have it on any other piece of gear, like your jewelry or something, or your staff, then you can just run full shadow damage. If you do not, you do need to put in 1 silverstone to give you sacred damage to spells, and by adding sacred damage to your spells, it enables all of the spells, even the ones that don't inherently do sacred damage, to execute, which is just a nice quality of life, and it doesn't cost you much. It's very hard to roll 3 offense 2s, easier than a catalyst, of course, but still pretty hard and a lot of gold. So you can settle on a combination of offense 2 and offense 3s, and put in Alexandrites in the offense 3s for crit damage, which is a decent replacement. It's not as good as flat damage, but it is a very decent replacement. For the defensive stuff, in the defensive 3 slots, I've been running flat health. I like to get around 100,000 health. It feels like a good spot to be in the end game. And then I'm currently running block efficiency. When you're leveling, you're going to want to run block chance, and block chance is defense 1. So you're going to want 1s and 3s in your gear when you're leveling. And I swapped over to 2s and 3s so I could get block efficiency. That's because when you have Belligerent Banner, you don't need to spec for block chance anymore. You get plenty of block chance. I'm not sure if the block efficiency is worth it over an all res, and block efficiency is defense 2 Alexandrite, all res is defense 3 Alexandrite. Because block efficiency only adds about like 1.5% to block efficiency, and you're not blocking that often. It's like, especially against the pack of mobs, you're only blocking maybe like a quarter of the attacks. Against a boss, you're going to block pretty much like half or most of the attacks. Um, so I'm not sure how worth it the block efficiency is over all res, but definitely for the chest, it's very hard to roll 3 of the same like it is for staff. So I'd say when you find, like when you're leveling, any combination of 1s and 3s in the chest, just keep that, roll with that, socket it, Alexandrites in the 1s, any health gems in the 3s. Later on, I swapped them over to 2s, so I got this combination of 2s, like 2 2s and a 3, and I was like, alright, good. Put 2 block efficiencies in, put a max health in, good to go. If you can roll like 3 3s, I guess you could put full health, you could put full resists. One thing people seem to think work but doesn't, I've tried it out, is putting all resist gems in your helmet and your chest does not get affected by your Siegebreaker nodes. So don't like feel like you have to do that. It's only the flat resist shown in the blue number there. And that's all your gems. So finally, we're going to go over exactly what you're looking for on your gear. So the best eye level I've found, or at least I've heard, is around 160. Around 160, you're only going to be rolling tier 10 to tier 12 affixes, and those are the tier 12 is the highest tier affix. I'm not sure if like 187, which is the highest you can roll, or I guess you can roll higher. I think I have some that are like it's a 175. Yeah, no, I think 187 is the highest you can roll. Um, I think that just gives you like a better chance of rolling 12s or not, but I'm not 100. So I've just been sticking to like running 163s because uh, I feel like that's the magic number for gear and it doesn't take that long to run. And yeah, but for the helmet and the chest, you are looking for all resistances flat and all resistances percentage. Both of these are prefixes, so it's pretty hard to find them on rare gear because you can only roll 2 prefixes on rare gear, and then they would both have to be these rolls. But if you can, great target to upgrade. These roll from 90 to 100 for the percentage, and 200 to 220 for the all resistance, and that's for the tier 12 rolls. Obviously, it rolls lower than that, so like this is 75%, and I have one here that's 100%, so like this is max roll on the percent. I'm going to see if I can get a nice flat one on this one, maybe find a replacement. But basically, you want to have both of these rolls, and that's going to increase your resistances by a ton. So that's the most important piece. You can even forego offensive stuff if the resist is high enough, but I'd still like look for it. The other prefix you're looking for, the third prefix, and this would be when you have legendary gear, you can get a third prefix. You want occult damage. So like this one, the prefixes are 100% all resist, 31% occult damage. Occult damage rolls from 43 to 45. So occult damage, again, it's flat percentage, but it's like 45 is a very large chunk of flat percentage, so every bit helps. If you don't roll occult damage, you can also stick with crit chance score like I have on this one. It rolls from 110 to 120, so this is also a max roll on the crit chance. And it's good. It's not as good as occult, but it's good. And primarily, you're looking for the first 2 prefixes, the resistances. So if you can get crit chance and it's like maxed out resistances, you're already good to go. Suffixes, pretty more loose, as you'll see. This one only has one suffix, and it's like garbage. Just because I ripped some other stuff off when I was trying to rip off. I was trying to see if I could rip off crit chance score and then roll occult damage, but I ended up ripping off a suffix. But suffixes you're looking for are cooldown decrease, and this is the same. The helm and the chest are the same. So you're looking for cooldown decrease of skills, and the highest roll on that is 38 to 40. Cooldown decrease lets you use your Aether Jump without spending an obscene amount of mana. It lets you keep your skills up more. It lets you like reapply stuff faster. It's just an all-around excellent stat. And it only rolls on a higher tier gear, so you're not going to find it when you're leveling. You're just going to find it when you're doing expeditions later on, I believe. The other suffix you're looking for is a ferocity or toughness roll. You can only roll one type of stat, so you can't roll like toughness and ferocity, but you can roll agility, wisdom, ferocity, or toughness. Typically, you're going to want toughness. That's going to give you more defensive stats and more damage, but ferocity, you do need to have a good chunk of ferocity total on your gear beyond just the bruiser stuff, because this is giving you about 100 ferocity if you have all of these bruiser. You're going to need a little bit more. So try to either ferocity or toughness is a good thing to have. And then the final suffix, there's not too much to look for here. You can get a Carousel affix, which is drops from Untainted runs, or if you use a Genesis Stone. There's some good ones there, but it's mostly a gamble. The other good one is if you use an Amethyst, you can get transfer time decrease. So like it has the staff implicit, and like people gem for this, you can get that as a suffix. That's fine, a good one to have. But basically, it's gravy at that point. Like we're not gonna split hairs over something that has 5 perfect affixes. And that's for the helmet and the chest. For the shoulders and the gloves, you're gonna want prefixes as occult damage. 45 again is your highest roll here. And the other stuff you can roll here, there's some like toss up on the other suffixes. The main thing you want is a big fat occult damage roll. Other good things to look for are flat all resistances roll. You see this one has 75, which isn't high because again it can roll up to 200 to 220. But because they have such small, like this is an 88%, but it only goes up to 29. Because they have such small resistances to start, you're better off getting a flat than a percentage. If you do get a percentage, you typically want to have it alongside a flat, and then you get more bonus. You can also get a double roll on health, where plus flat health plus health percentage. That'll give you a big chunk of health from this. You can get passive dodge chance score, which I have here. Typically, you're going to want passive dodge chance score on one piece of gear. So you can have it on, I think most of your stuff can roll passive dodge chance score, but you want to have one because you go from 0 dodge to like 12% dodge, and you just completely ignore a hit when you dodge it. So having a 12% chance to just totally ignore a hit and keep all your stacks of everything up is way better than having 0. And the second instance of passive dodge is not going to give you 12%. I'm not sure how it's going to increase, but it's not going to be anywhere close to the amount the initial passive dodge chance will get you. So try to get one piece of these on gear. And then crit chance score is another one you could shoot for. Prefixes are kind of like loose. Try and get whatever you want for prefixes. Just look for the really, really high occult damage rolls. The suffixes are the important part for these pieces. You definitely want to have a rage and willpower decrease on most, if not all of these pieces. It's going to be your best. It rolls from 38 to 40 is the highest percent. And then next you're going to want a ferocity or toughness roll, and those can roll from up to 80 to 85 as the highest rolls. So if you have a high occult damage, a high rage and willpower decrease, or even like a medium one, and a high ferocity or toughness roll, you've got yourself a good piece of gear. Everything else is sort of icing at that point. And then the final suffix, you can't roll Cyrus affixes on these pieces, so don't waste your Genesis stones on them. Uh, Basically, I took a look through them, and anything's fine. There's nothing that's like really good or really stand out. Um, just take whatever you can get. Most of it's like health regen and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. So just take whatever you can get for the last suffix. For the belt, um, you're going to want uh, flat damage to spells, and you're also going to want maybe health roll. I'd say you probably should have a health roll, but you don't have to. But the idea behind having health rolls on jewelry is you're replacing a flat damage roll, which is big, but jewelry can roll the highest health rolls. They can roll up to 2,000 health. So the tier 12 rolls are 1,900 to 2,000 health, which is more than any other piece of gear. So if you're gonna get a health roll, you'd probably want it on jewelry, even though you're losing some damage for it. It's just so much health. It's definitely worth it. And then you're shooting for shadow damage or other forms of flat occult damage. Other forms of damage are fine, like I have frost and lightning here, along with some good stuff. This is fire and frost. But occult damage flat is going to be multiplied and scaled by all of your other occult damage stuff, which you're going to have all over the tree and almost all of your pieces of gear, ideally. So you want to try and get Aether, Shadow, and Sacred. Shadow number 1, Aether number 2. The first instance of Sacred is very important, and all the other ones are like tier 3. And then all the other types of damage are below that. For suffixes, you're going to want a crit damage roll, and on the belt it can roll up to 20 is what I read on Wolcen DB, and on the necklace it can roll up to 30. I'm not sure if the belt can roll beyond 20. That might have just been a bug or like a mistype on Wolcen DB, but you want a high crit damage roll on both of these. Crit damage is extremely important. It's right under flat damage for the highest thing you can scale your damage with. And then a big fat occult damage roll. I don't have that on either of these, but it says elemental damage. If this piece had occult damage there, it would be excellent. Near perfect, but that's fine. For the final roll, you can roll occult chance score, which is fine. I think it only rolls percentage though, like this one, which isn't that good. You really want like flat, which you're only going to get from like a staff, or like a random piece of gear here, or that has resistance score. I think it's just like on a staff or something, where you get like a flat. Um, but you can also craft. You can craft plus ailment stacks from a Genesis Stone, but there's also some like not so good affixes. But there's not too many, so it's not that much of a gamble if you use a Genesis Stone on these. And plus ailment stacks is just a nice quality of life. You can get +1 or +2, both of which are really good. And you can also craft plus percentage shadow damage, plus percentage aether damage, plus percentage sacred damage. But you can only craft these; they can't roll them naturally. So, like if you roll with a silver stone, which is what I did on this one, I like rolling with silver stones because they apply occult damage and all the sacred damage stuff and maximum health, which is all the stuff you want for gems. You can roll sacred damage, shadow damage, and aether damage, and those I believe can roll on top of occult damage. I think I had a piece before that had multiple types, so those ones don't override the like the tree of occult damage type. So you can have multiples of those. And those are the main suffixes. Basically, crit damage and occult damage. Everything else is gravy, but there's some good ones there. Boots. Boots you're gonna want brawler boots, and they can roll a big fat occult damage roll. 43 to 45 is the highest. And there's a few things you're gonna want on this. So you can either roll, you can either get your dodge chance roll on this, and if you get your dodge chance roll on this, you're probably going to want a crit chance roll alongside it, or a flat roll, like a flat resist roll. Another thing you can roll is like these pieces, you can roll a double health or double resist, but again they're bruiser, so like percentage resist is not that big. Um, but flat resist is pretty big. So flat resist is good. Double that's good. Percentage resist not so good. Flat health and health percentage are both pretty good because you have a good chunk of health on these gear. Obviously they're better when they're stacked. But if you take dodge on this, then take dodge and crit. The suffixes are the really important ones. So if you want to forego most of the prefixes and just take what's there, just look for a big fat occult damage roll, and then everything else you just take it. Number one, you want movement speed. Movement speed can only roll on boots, and the prefix for rogue pants. Highest movement speed is 38 to 40. That's tier 12, pretty good. So you want to make sure you have as much of that as you can. It makes disallowing vessel feel less bad because you're not really like moving at a snail's pace. Um, so that's important. And then you want a ferocity or a toughness roll. Again, 80 to 85. Big roll on that is what you want. And then finally, this one is a quality of life. You don't have to shoot for it as long as you have good occult damage, good toughness / ferocity, and good movement speed. You got a good piece of gear. The best suffix you can roll on this is +1 stamina point. That's the final suffix you want to roll, and it's just another dodge thing. And dodge is nice because it doesn't cost you points from disallowing vessel, and you can move through things. You can use it as like a bonus stash. You can avoid stuff. But usually you're not going to go below 4, but it is a nice quality of life to have, and it's the best suffix by far. Next, let's go to rings. So rings are similar to the other jewelry. So the prefixes are going to be exactly the same as the other jewelry. You're just going to want flat damage and health. Other thing you can roll on jewelry that I forgot to mention is instead of health, you can roll percentage all resistance scores. Do I have anything on me? No. But instead of like a big health roll, you can roll a like 30% to all resists, which is pretty powerful. You can actually roll 38 to 40, which is really powerful. That's like 2 or 3 nodes on the tree. So that's really good defensively, especially if you have plenty of health from like gems or stuff. You can also roll that like health plus all resists and then plus a flat damage. That's also a fine piece of gear. You're losing out some damage, but it's a very defensive oriented gear, which is nice. Suffix on rings, you want crit damage, occult damage. You can also roll spell crit, and on this one you can roll spell crit like percentage. So that's pretty good. And that you can roll with Alexandrites, and it's a suffix, so it's easier to get than on the belt and the. I'm not sure if it's just the belt or the belt and the neck, but I have to double check. And so it's easier to get that on this. Like this has spell critical chance score. That's a suffix as opposed to a prefix, so it's easier to get. And then finally, as a suffix, instead of ailment stacks, you can roll max willpower and rage, which is another nice quality of life. And if you feel you have enough after getting some rolls on it, you can start unallocating the max willpower stuff on the tree. Starting over by the warlock stuff, I'd probably start with. And yeah, so those are the rolls you can get on those. And finally, or not finally, we still have to do legs. So legs, rogue legs have some interesting rolls, especially compared to heavy legs and bruiser legs. So rogue legs can roll passive dodge chance, which heavy legs can't. And you can roll maximum health and health percentage. So a good roll, and you can't roll resist on this, which is fine because it doesn't have any resist anyway, so you wouldn't want to roll resist percentage. So prefixes, you only want big occult roll, anywhere from 43 to 45 is the tier 12. You want to roll, this would be a good place for passive dodge. You can take passive dodge here if you want. You can take crit chance here if you want. It's flat crit, so it's pretty good. You can also take a double health roll. So flat max health, it goes from 900 to 1000. which is on top of the, usually have around like 800 health when you max the quality. And then you can get a health percentage, which is also pretty good on its own, just because you start off with a good chunk of health. Or if you double up on the health roll, that's at a ton of health. So you get occult damage, double health roll, very good. Occult damage, crit and dodge chance, very good. Occult damage, health in either crit or dodge, very good. For suffixes, you're gonna want cooldown again. They can roll anywhere from 38 to 40% cooldown. You want 80 to 85 frosty and toughness. And for the final affix that you can roll flat spellcasting speed, which is really good because we don't have any spellcasting speed on our tree or anything. So flat roll of it is pretty good, and you can roll it with an amethyst. So if you're looking to slam it as the final suffix, put an amethyst in. And spellcasting speed is like exclusive to rogue pants as opposed to the heavies and stuff. So that's just another reason to run rogue pants over those. And finally, the staff. The staff is pretty straightforward. You just want flat damage. You want ideally 3 flat damage rolls: Sacred, Shadow, and Aether. Those are the 3 flat damage. The highest roll is 44 to 62. I have here. The 44 can go higher. I think it goes to like 50 or so. I don't have it pulled up right now. But 62 is the highest it can roll. And then 36 to 44 is like second highest. Spell damage. This is actually a pretty low spell damage roll. Spell damage can roll up to like I believe 200% on a staff, so you can get a pretty crazy roll there. But it does take the slot of a flat damage, so it's fine to have like this is fine. Sacred Shadow spell damage. Ideally, you want Sacred Shadow Aether, but you can take any two occult damage types plus spell damage is fine. For suffixes, you want 30% crit damage. That is the highest you can roll. So see if you can get that. It seems to be its own roll, so I think tier 12 is just 30, because I've had a lot of stuff roll 30. So it shouldn't be too hard to get 30, but even if you get like 28 or something, it's like still really good if you can get the other stuff, the other flat. And then there's a bunch of good stuff. Casting speed, crit chance, occult ailment chance. You want flat for that, of course, because we don't have a lot of wisdom. There's some Carousel affixes that are pretty good. Like you can cast other stuff. Like you can cast Mark of Impunity if you want to run that as your 5th skill. That's the Carousel affix you can roll. I believe you can only roll Carousel suffixes after you have full prefixes. So I would wait until you have all your flat damage or 2 flat damage or spell damage to start shooting to roll that. But the most important aspect of the staff is by far the 3 flat damages or the 2 in a high spell damage roll plus crit damage. Everything else is basically gravy at that point. And you really want to try and shoot for flat damage that is occult damage type, because that scales with everything. And if you can get shadow damage here, that's ideal, because that'll give you a big chunk of shadow damage for your Infinity Blades and everything else to start applying curse stacks. So that's it for the gear. You want to run 2 ultimate willpower potions. You can run a health potion and a willpower potion when you're leveling, and you don't feel as safe. Once you feel that you don't need any health potions anymore, just go ahead and slot them out for 2 willpower. Not a lot of like flasks in this game, so this is basically the best we can do. And that's it for this video.